How's it going? Today is Funky and I'm here with Random Movie Mondays. And this movie is called Sydney White. I've been meaning to watch this movie for at least either on a Friday or a Monday. And I gotta say, I don't know what to think of it. It's a bit of an annoying movie. I've got to be careful how I say what I'm going to say here. Because the type of characters I'm going to describe as annoying could come off as a bit like I don't want to, I'm not going to say more, I'm just going to explain it. And this movie is about a woman called Sydney White, obviously, and she goes into like a sorority house called Kappa, and she sort of gets banished from it, and the girls don't necessarily like her. This is what I mean. And I'm going to describe more of the movie, then I'll say what I've got to be careful how I word it. And then she has to team up with some social outcasts, or as dorks, as they, want to prefer to be called. And this is what I'm saying. For me, right, and be careful, I would say, the female characters in this show, it kind of annoyed me. I'm not being funny, right? I'm not mean to be sexist here, but they kind of annoyed me in terms of, I know it's a sorority and that's usually how they are, but there's comedies where the sorority chicks and it's not this annoying. And it is the way they went over the top, and the way it's probably just typical of a movie like this. And this movie did its best to. Movies like this tried their best to be like American Pie. That's all it feels like to me. And American Pie were always I think it started off this whole teen movie type thing. I'm pretty sure they started something like it off, and there's more American Pie movies out there. And the characters are a bit more you connect with them when that's so them because they're actually fun. They got something about them. Movies like this though, like Sydney White and the other ones I've seen, Incoming, the characters try hard but they're not funny enough. The best characters in a movie are the dorks, because they fit in a movie like this. I'm not being funny. I don't be being really disrespectful. Right? I'm trying to word it as best as I can. But the dorks, the way the dork characters are in these type of movies, they suit it. In terms of the humour level, I mean, some of the funny scenes were mostly the dorks involved, such as when Terence sort of sees Sydney shaving, because Sydney's staying with them after she got banished, and she's trying to motivate them as well, which they needed it. And Terence sort of hits his head in the wall, and he tries his best to walk out because Sydney told him to leave. There's another scene where she tells him to go to the gym, and somebody's lifting weights. I can't remember. Was it? No, it wasn't Lenny. It was George, wasn't it? Well, one of those two. They were lifting weights, and weights on two of the the dog's feet. And then that made me laugh. I can't like that. And also one scene where Sydney White fell off a bench while she was at this party was happening. After I think they woke up. Was it before that? I can't quite remember. And another scene where the dogs were making some sort of posters for the debate. But and another scene where I think, what was it? Not boxer shorts. So wasn't it where one of them had a puppet in their hand. I think the puppet is I think it belonged to one dude. I forgot the name now. But yeah, that's what dude said. This is the only thing that has touched boobs. I'm just that kind of made me laugh. Scenes like that is what's needed in a movie like this. That's the right type of humour for this type of movie. And I do see these movies carefully. I won't just say anything willy-nilly. I analyse these movies carefully, which you have to do when you're making a review. And I just believe, I say what I think, what I believe anyway, because what I've watched. And what I say is, it sounds right to me, if that makes any sense. So but there's not really much to describe this movie. You got the Tyler character that comes and sort of is working with Rachel, who's number one basically, who's the sorority. You could say queen or whatever you want to call her. And she's the mean girl basically of it all. And that's Tyler's working with her behind the scenes, and she sort of tricks the dogs into thinking there's a swimming pool outside, a hot tub, whatever it is, and she tries to get naked or something. And Terence was pretty brave to still standing out the naked. I think it's because there was dialogue related to him where Rachel sort of says, he's graduated and stuff like that, and Terrence decided to stay because he wanted to learn more. And yeah, and Tyler sort of apologizes that he didn't set any of the tricks up. He just was partly working with her, but not fully. That makes any sort of sense. And Tyler's sort of like a character where I don't know why he was included the way he was, because for starters, if it's a comedy, everyone should have a funny side to it. Tyler didn't have anything funny to him. He's just a guy that was put there to make it more romantic. I get it's probably partly rom-com related, I get that. But he was just probably the only unfunny normal character there, to be honest. Same with, you know, Sydney's dad, but Sydney's dad was only in it from the start. You only saw him until at the end, towards the end anyway, so I'm not really going to say much about him. The start, kind of a tiny bit funny. When she was saying goodbye to like the construction workers, and she was like, you know, make sure you don't nail anybody again, like with the nail gun or something like that, and they showed some guy's arm being bandaged. Yeah, even at the start, I was like, it's good. It's a good quality for a 2007 movie. It didn't feel that old. It didn't look that old. The quality felt a little more like 2010, 2011. I'll give him that one. But again, I thought at the start was like, this movie isn't gonna feel funny. This Sydney White's character alone, it didn't feel funny to me. She just came because someone that's just annoying and didn't know what to do. I understand she has to be clueless at first. It didn't feel authentic. And this ain't me being rude, it did not feel authentic. And I'm not good at acting, I feel awkward around people that I don't connect with when it comes to stuff like this. But at least I'll try and act, at least. Try harder to somewhere. You know, and yeah. And you know, that's not really much else to talk about. You know, apart from like, you know, I could have mentioned other scenes where she kind of got like humiliated and she thought she was actually doing well. Whereas it was just her getting tricked, and her finding that Tyler's like work with the homeless. They need to put that bit into it. It's a comedy. There needs to be less serious stuff. The ending is something I respect though. You know, she had so many people inside. It was like an army basically. I don't know if you heard that vehicle going by. That was a bit loud. I know the window's open, but still. Yeah, but she had a whole lot of army on their side, and you'd think. This is what I think. In this summary, the reason why Rachel got voted is because of her looks mostly. Right, that's not being rude. But Sydney got voted because she's more intelligent, smarter, she's a bit more down to earth, and she knows what she's talking about basically. She's more of the normal one, you know. Whereas Rachel's all just about looks and being mean. That's why she keeps getting voted. And plus, she always likes to manipulate situations and always tries to sabotage. That's why her side always wins. Whereas Sydney's more authentic. That's a good word to use. She's more realistic, and she came up with something that actually sounded, you know, legit and genuine. And she got voted. But she had more votes by her side too. She got loads of people coming. I don't know where I think there was like Jewish people. I don't know where they came from. I know there was a scene of her, but she had a lot of votes. And a lot of people were proud to say they're like a dork or something like that. And yeah, and Dinky as well, that character. Not bad to put her in, to be fair. I mean, the accent, you know, was quite cool. You know, I think that's like a Texan accent. I always found it to be kind of cool. It's quite comic to hear that accent. But yeah, she ends up being in love with like the Lenny character, and you have like, I forgot the dude's name. That is in them to like the People's Punisher book or whatever. And the woman came and said, "Oh, I really love that book," you know, and we can, you know, like hook up or something. She said it earlier in the movie, and I think she was only deciding to go on Sydney's side because she hooked up with her. That's what I think anyway. I don't think she was planning to doing their vote to do that voting part anyway. That supportive. That didn't come into mind. I don't know. Like maybe she would have still done it. But they could have made the other dudes sort of have women. It would have been a bit more fair, to be honest. And then the end part as well. Quite interested to see Lenny get like a job in selling something for $10 million, which was mad. Hope he shared it. Probably kept it, I don't know. And yeah, so it was nice to see it in Thailand, you know, Sydney sort of like getting more mad. It was kind of nice. And again, she said at the end how, you know, that's her story and stuff like that. Her mum was also part of that too. So it's funny with family members, it sort of ties with the bloodline, sort of ties, and you sort of continue that bloodline, and you sort of follow in your parents' footsteps most of the time. That's what I like. That's what I find interesting. But yeah, she was gonna win somehow, to be honest. And then Rachel got banished from like you know, the Kappa house, which was coming. I'm surprised they didn't do it earlier, just because, yeah, she was already started becoming manipulative from the start. They just didn't notice it. But then I think she was in charge, so they could find anybody else. They could find anybody new. And the part where Sydney stood up to, you know, Rachel, which, to be fair, if that's happened, you're standing to one of the meanest people there. Like, you deserve to be part of that sort of sorority that you do, or whatever sort of thing you're into anyway. It doesn't be sorority, it be another version of that, but it's so nice. Like, they should have allowed their back just for that. I mean, that was a scene where they was having a barbecue and Lenny starts talking about some logical things. I don't know, he's like the logical intelligent one, basically. Yeah, I had another scene where I think, who was it I was watching? Someone watching with the binoculars to see Thailand. Who was the Thailand Sydney? Sort of about to kiss, and he just throws like I think the balcony or something like that. Yeah, that was a tiny bit funny, but could have been better, I guess. But yeah, and the hacking scene as well, where her laptop got hacked. I've never seen that sort of hacking before. Never seen that quality of hacking. Yes, that's really about it. There's not really much else to talk about in the movie. I was going to explain it a bit differently, but you know what I'm like in my explanations. I sort of struggle to try and get my words right, but I managed to get it eventually. I don't make the video too short. I don't make the video too long. I think I should have a maximum of 8 or 9 minutes, but still, talking about movies long, because I'm talking about a show where you could describe it for at least 10 or 9 minutes. That's easier to explain than like a movie. But your rating for this, it definitely isn't a 7. It's below that. It definitely doesn't. It's definitely not average. I think if it was average, I think the female character is probably less annoying. They'll probably might give them a rating high, but because there's only like one set of characters that are good, and the fact there's a lack of humor involved, I think it's slightly below average. I'm being fair. I'm rating this one quite fairly, but it's questionable. It definitely deserves a 6. It's not just below decent. It's way below decent, and it's below average for me. It don't deserve to be a 1 because there's 1 or 2 aspects which I like in the show. I don't think it deserves to be a 2. Slightly higher than that, I think. I think this is not. Is it as funny as Incoming? I think Incoming I gave a 5. Or maybe a 6. But this one here, I think with Incoming the characters work perfectly. They just needed a bit more humour to them. Whereas this one needed a bit more acting and more comedy and more humour involved. I'm going to give this one a 4. I think a 4 is about fair. You know, if the female character is a bit more less annoying as such. I think Dinky was the only one that wasn't that annoying to me. But oh, got a call coming in. That's that soon. But yeah, I think Dinky is probably the less annoying female character. Sydney White, I wouldn't say she's that annoying, but I'd just be like, there wasn't enough from her character-wise. Rachel, there was too much meanness. Could have had humour added to it as well. But yeah, I just think the Dorks was the one that made the movie. I think they're the best characters in the movie. And they need to be in other movies. I think they probably are. I just don't know what movies they're in. But yeah, definitely need to include them in other movies because they fit it perfectly. I had a feeling, this is probably, I did watch it, but then I had a feeling when I saw the dorky characters, I'm just like, they don't make this movie watchable, which they did. So that's why I gave this a 4. It kind of saves, they kind of save the movie for being a terrible score. 4's not the best, no, but it could have been worse if it wasn't for those type of characters. So yeah, that's it for this video, I guess. 4 out of 10 is. If you enjoyed the video, please give a like, comment, share, subscribe and hit the notification below. So I'll see you in my next video.